Welcome to the Business Finance Matters podcast. Over the next 15 minutes, we're going to tackle some of the topics that we get asked about on a regular basis so you business owners can get a better understanding of what it is that you're probably dealing with on a day-to-day basis. Let's get on with it. Trevor, Finance in 15 is back.
Indeed, my friend. What are we talking about now?
Well, today I thought if a number of times this crops up in conversation, the word personal guarantee.
Oof.
Now, this is an area that obviously I come across a lot when I'm working with businesses and especially working with the lenders. Typically, it all depends on a number of things which we won't go into now, but personal guarantees, it's something that not a lot of people are clear about. So I'm hoping in the next 15 minutes you can make that a bit clearer.
Well, let's hope so. I mean, look, guarantee, as soon as anybody hears the word guarantee, it's doom and gloom and, we're all going to be made homeless and all the rest of it. Let's just start. Look, let's just look at the types of firms, types of businesses out there and just get a couple of things clear. If you're trading as a sole trader or a partnership of 2 or 3 partners, regardless of what you may think, you're already personal liable for the debts of that business. So it comes with the program, if you like. What we're talking about here now is those businesses that trade through an incorporated business. And again, I'm no lawyer, I'm no solicitor, but the legal definition is that the limited company is a separate legal identity. And the reason that it's called limited is because the liability is limited to that identity, that legal entity. That's where the guarantee comes in afterwards. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. So again, just from a layman's point of view, typically businesses that are incorporated have that word limited after its name, whereas sole traders tend to be Joe Bloggs and Joe Bloggs trading as, or they're just a one-man band that's a tradesperson. So we're talking about Joe Bloggs Limited, aren't we?
Exactly. We're talking about incorporated companies. Now, the guarantees can take many, many types of forms. You talked about a personal guarantee there, and it is what it is. It's a guarantee, quite simply, in the event that the limited entity fails to meet its obligations. If the lender has taken a personal guarantee from the director or directors of that business, then they then become liable to pay that debt.
Okay.
And it's as simple as that.
Okay. And would you say that's in all cases?
No, it's often used, and again, you probably relate to this. It's often used, and it sounds a strange thing to say, but it's often used by lenders to almost test what commitment those directors have to the business. I mean, there's a phrase called skin in the game. Yeah, we've talked about skin in the game before. And it's probably never the intention of the lender necessarily to prosecute that indemnity, or I'll use a new word there, but that guarantee. But sometimes it may be, and we'll come back to that perhaps a little bit later on. But the reality is that a guarantee may be used for several reasons. It may be a new start business, and therefore, again, it's testing the commitment of those lenders. It may be that there's insufficient security. So if you look at the world of asset finance, you'll be familiar with assets that have an intrinsic value, vehicles, plant, machinery. You tend not to find guarantees asked for so much because the lender should, that awful day come and the business closes, then they're likely to get a significant proportion of the debt back from the sale of those assets.
Yeah. That just about sums up this complicated world of business finance, doesn't it? When the word personal guarantee is mentioned, there's usually a valid reason behind why the personal guarantee is required. And,
you're right.
And some of it's mindset, isn't it? So some of the lenders say, well, look, we're prepared to give you X, and there's no other additional security, and we won't go into that just now, but there are other forms of security that lenders might want to take. But as you say, if there is no asset necessary to secure it on, they're saying, we'll give you X, but we want your personal guarantee to give us confidence that you're behind this in terms of making sure that the business is running in accordance with what we expect. And if there is a problem, and if there is a situation where, for whatever reason, the loan is not unable to be repaid, then you as directors are behind this, and again, it's another conversation on the day. But there are processes behind how they then instruct that personal guarantee. Should it need to be?
And you're right, Dave. I mean, you've eloquently explained it there. I think well, yeah, for a change. But I think the difficulty and the challenges in our market, and again, this lays us back to the role of the business finance intermediary, is that the lender tends not to really explain it that well. Yes, they'll deliver the paperwork. Yes, it will have the terms and conditions on there.
Yeah.
But you probably, in your world, how many times have you heard a lender saying, I'll tell you what, Mr. Customer, let me explain to you why we're doing this, what the consequences could be, and the reality of what that means. I mean, look, the reality is there's a lot of, I suppose, unwritten fear, shall we say? I don't think it's too strong a word.
As well.
And there's a stigma. You hear, and I'm sure you hear it almost on a daily basis, I'm not going to give my personal guarantee, why am I running a limited company? If they don't want to lend to me, well, it's sort of, that's not really the right way to think about it.
Correct. And also for as an intermediary, and it has happened recently, and the managing director there. And let's be honest, also something else, Trevor, that came into my head a minute ago, personal guarantees. Now, if the directors, we talk about shareholding now, if there's a director set up where there's a number of directors that have a small amount of shareholding and it's ultimately owned by another group, that's slightly different, isn't it, in terms of the mindset?
Yeah, I mean, look, they can work a number of ways. Ultimately, the lender is looking for some sort of security.
Correct.
Over and above potentially skin in the game. So there could be a proportional guarantee. So if, let's say, they're taking a loan for 100,000, let's say there's 4 directors, each own 25%, well, they might be limited to that 25%.
Yeah.
Equally, you mentioned the group structure there. Another form of guarantee is you might have a trading business that's owned by a larger entity. Unlikely in the SME marketplace, but it does exist. So the lender may say, well, hold on a minute, we'll take the guarantee. We don't need your personal guarantee, but we'll take the guarantee of the group company. Yeah. Same sort of principle. If the lending business fails to make its payments, then there's a call on the group company. So that's fairly common. But when we look at SME businesses, primarily it's the owners of that business that the lender is speaking to and wants that security.
Yeah, I had a situation recently where the company that I was working with, the majority shareholder had 75% and his wife had 25%, but she had no role in the business whatsoever. So there was absolutely no value in her personal guarantee, because why would you take a guarantee? All right, she had 25% shareholder, but what I'm trying to say is the lender took the right decision, which was we don't need her guarantee because she's not involved with the business on a daily basis. So going back to the original question, I think it's, again, horses for courses.
Yes.
Lenders will ask for personal guarantees for valid reasons.
Yes.
It's our job, or my job as an intermediary, to explain why. And then if there is a stigma against it, well, I'm concerned because if I give my personal guarantee and the debt defaults, they're going to come and take my house away. There's all these stigmas around what personal guarantees are.
And that we need to squash immediately. I mean, when we were doing some research for this subject, I actually looked at how many guarantees are actually prosecuted.
Oh, yeah.
And to be quite frank, I don't know what your guess would be, but I think I saw some figures back in 2024, and I do have to quote my source here. It's an organisation called the Lending Standards Board, and in 2024 they said approximately. Do you want to have a guess?
We're talking percentages here.
Yeah.
I'm going to go low. I'll go 22%.
You'd be amazed. Less than 2% of personal guarantees are called upon annually.
Well, I knew they were low, and there's lots of reasons to that, which we haven't got time to go into now. But the fact of the matter is, a lender can only do what it can do.
Exactly.
And providing there's been no fraud,
yes,
and providing the director's done everything they can to make sure that business trades successfully,
yeah,
then there is, as far as I'm aware, and I don't want to be quoted on this, I don't know the true facts, but based on what you just said, the chances of that lender actually enforcing that guarantee are low for lots of reasons, which we can't go into.
And you're absolutely right. Lenders are not in the business of putting families out on the street. No. You think of the reputational damage, let alone the moral and ethical side of that. What they want, if they're not willing to invest in the business, they won't give them the money in the first place. Remember what I said earlier in the conversation? It's a lot of it is about skin in the game. It's like, well, we're investing £1,000 and £100,000 in your business. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you could argue, well, we're running the business, we're doing this, we're doing that. Yeah, but hold on a minute, how serious are you?
Yeah.
And I just think that I personally think, and this is where I think that the role of the business intermediary really comes into its own, because it does everything, like I said earlier, that the lender doesn't. It explains it to the business owners, because you and your colleagues that are in that business understand what the implications are, and quite frankly, what the reality is.
Yeah.
And you know, it takes a long time to get to that stage.
Yeah.
You know, they might reshape the deal, they might reshape the debt, they might extend the terms, they might give them a moratorium. You know, we saw a lot of forbearance during COVID, you know, where companies were finding it difficult because the supply chain suffered. Well, a lot of lenders said, well, okay, you know, for the reasons you've explained, no payments for the next 3 months, or no payments for the next 6 months, or reduced payments. I think in the main, lenders will try to work with their customers if they can. And that's the key. And I think this whole area of when you put the word personal in front of a guarantee, you know, it's that pub conversation, isn't it? You know, it's that, don't want to talk about finance. The last thing I want to do is give my personal guarantee, because if I tell the wife or I tell my partner, or, you know, have a look at the kids at the Sunday dinner table, you know, we might have a roof over our head. You know, I'm not trying to simplify the process, but I think it has to be a measured decision. And it has to be understood. It is a legal document. It is enforceable. But let's look at the reality, which I've hoped to explain a little bit there.
So under the title personal guarantee, there are lots and lots of different types of personal guarantees.
Yes.
One of them I quite like to ask you about is where they limit the amount that the personal guarantee is responsible for. So give me some examples of that.
Well, it's like I was saying a little bit earlier. I mean, they might limit it depending, it might be proportionate to the shareholding.
Okay.
So again, we go back to that £100,000 loan with 4 directors, or perhaps 2 of the directors own 80% of the shares and the other 2 may own 10%. Well, there might be a proportionate liability there.
So each individual has a different amount.
Correct.
Okay.
Or the lender may say, well, actually, looking at that business, the 10% shareholders don't do nothing. You know, they're there really to support. They're almost sleeping. They don't take a day-to-day active role. They probably really couldn't influence too much. We'll actually limit it to the 2 main shareholders.
Or it could have been gifted to them, as happened in many companies.
Exactly that. So it could be proportionate, could be limited. The main thing to bear in mind is it's not a one-size-fits-all, this. And no business finance is a one-size-fits-all. And it's the same with personal guarantee. I mean, another variation, and I know a few lenders do this, they do what they call a deliver-up guarantee, which is if they're financing a particular piece of equipment that has some value, then again, it's a promise that the directors make that should the business fail, then they promise to deliver that equipment back to that leasing company or that finance company.
I mean, we're running out of time now, but words like indemnities and words like performance guarantees, I mean, these all come under a PG banner, but they have different textures to them.
Yeah, of course they do. I mean, but you know, we haven't got enough time to go into detail. I think the main message to get across is, if you are a business owner and you've been asked to provide some sort of guarantee, then make sure you understand it's fully explained to you. And if the lender's not doing that to you, and that's not just presenting a piece of paper with terms and conditions on, we keep saying it, this is a majorly important role of the business finance intermediary, because they understand the implications, and then individuals can make a judgment. If they don't want to do it, then don't do it. But if it's explained properly, we talked about the reality, and the reality is it's not throwing families out on the streets. It's mainly used to focus the mind.
Good. There we go. And I think, you know, again, with anything that we talk about, if there's any questions that anybody's got, certainly regarding this topic, then they can come and talk to us directly, or they can email us at
podcast@bfpguild.org. One day, Dave, you're going to remember that.
Or just Google the Guild of Business Finance Professionals.
Well, you could do that. That's what you do. But no, seriously, it's as complex as you want to make it. There are a huge amount of variations. Yeah. You compare this, you compare that. Remember what I said. Take advice, take guidance, know what you're getting yourself into, understand the implications, but do not panic. That's the key.
Perfect.
There's no need to panic.
I won't panic. And on that note, I wish you a good day.
Thank you, my friend. You take care.
And you. Thanks for joining us on this podcast. We hope it was useful. Please share, please subscribe so we can share this content to as many business owners as we possibly can. And if there was anything we haven't covered in this particular episode, then please let us know. Drop us a line. We'll be happy to talk about it in future episodes. Thanks again.